So as you guys can tell from the title of this video is going to be every single one of the new bloodlines from worst to best. Now, the oldest bloodline on this video is going to be Ryan Gaiden, and we will be including reworks as they're basically just entirely new bloodlines. So if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe to the video, guys. Alright, so coming in 8th place is actually going to be Bruce Kenichi. Now, Bruce Kenichi is going to be last on this list, mainly because Bruce Kenichi is a very combo-oriented bloodline. Now, the issue with this is that most of the moves actually don't really work that well in combos, even though it is combo-oriented. Generally, only the third move of Bruce Kenichi is useful. The mode is very subpar compared to a bunch of the modes in the game. The first ability puts him into an air combo, which really isn't the greatest for, combos in the game. And the second move is only usable in air combos unless you actually have the mode equipped. So in general, Bruce Kenichi is really not that great of a bloodline right now, and I would only recommend getting this if you have the third or fourth bloodline slot available, as you can literally just equip the third move to your elemental slot if that's actually the case. It's also worth mentioning that Bruce Kenichi is possibly one of the single worst rare bloodlines in the game right now, simply because it is very combo locked. So if you do not have the third or fourth bloodline slot, it is actually borderline useless unless you have an extremely good C-spec and bloodline of the other one. Like, Strange would work with Bruce Kenichi, but that's quite literally about it. Now, coming in 7th place is going to be the boss drop Jinshiki. Now, this actually was a spinnable bloodline. They did actually make it a boss drop recently, which is actually a very huge plus. But the reason why this is going to be in 7th is because people generally only use this for the counter. The other abilities are very bad at best, like literally at best. The second move, it triggers a counter, so someone can actually counter while the second move's hitting you, and it instantly makes the second move useless. And the first move is just the, delayed stun. In general, that's really not that good in Shindo Life in particular, just because you do want the instantaneous stuns and stuff like that. I would say the only one worth using is actually going to be the third move of it, which is generally the move that people actually use from it, the counter. Now, the issue with the counter and the reason why it's going to rate this low is because the counter actually gets hardcore countered by iframes. So it will get absolutely slammed by iframes. Iframes will just completely destroy it. So I think that's definitely worth mentioning for Jinshiki. The reason why it's going to be 7th is because the iframe is the only good ability, and even then there are very specific counters to the actual counter, which is funny because it's a counter. Now, like I said, this actually was a spinnable bloodline. They actually did change it back into being a boss drop, which it should be because it does, it is literally what the boss uses itself. And I actually do think it works very well as a boss drop, because as you're farming this boss, the modes of the actual other bloodlines and the mode that's supposed to go with Jinshiki does drop as well. So there is all that stuff to it, and I do think Jinshiki is good as a boss drop. Now, coming to 6th place is going to be Ryan Gaiden. Now, Ryan Gaiden is going to be in 6th place, mainly because the second ability was nerfed. Now, people are kind of going, oh, the second ability, a few hand signs was added, that's not the end of the world. The ability already wasn't the best. That's the issue with it. They basically removed the only good thing about the ability, because now the ability is a multiple hand sign ability that is extremely counterable. If this ability gets blocked, you're instantly getting comboed by someone. If they have a teammate, you're instantly getting comboed by someone. The only thing this second move is actually useful for is stalling out fights in 1v1s, and even then, half the time you will not land it, and it actually is much better to use a different iframe attack. Now, this is actually the best ability of Ryan Gaiden. The first move is going to be getting buffed soon, so the first move obviously has too much end lag right now to be useful. That's why it's going to be in 6th place, but if it wasn't for the end lag, it would actually be a good ability. Now, the third ability of Ryan Gaiden, which actually is the samurai combo ability where you dash to someone and do the swing. It is actually one of the better abilities of it, but it is also extremely counterable. If they use any counter, it actually does cancel it. If they use any iframe ability, it will cancel it. In general, it's just really not that great of an ability, and I do recommend you refrain from using it because a lot of people are running counters right now. Now, the mode of Ryan Gaiden, which is actually the best thing in my opinion, the C-spec is a counter. Now, even though the C-spec is a counter, it does actually give you iframes afterwards, which is actually a really huge bonus, and it does, have some flame effect, which is actually quite good. The weapon spec is probably the best ability of it. It's a point and click ability. When you click on someone, big damage burst with Inferno Flames. Pretty good ability overall, and the throwable is just Tengoku weapon spec. So in general, I do actually think Ryan Gaiden is very deserving of 6th place, but not above it. Now, coming in 5th place, it could be the Renshiki rework. Now, the Renshiki rework did borrow a lot of original abilities from the other Renshiki, just made it better. So the counter now fires projectiles back and does everything the other counter did. You have to hold it down to get the full duration of it. So I do actually think that sometimes it can actually glitch out and you can't hold it down in fights, but generally it's actually a really good counter. The second ability is ground lock, so it's really not that great overall. Just because it's ground locked, you can't actually combo people there. You can't do it after your M1 generally, and if they're in the air at all, you will almost guaranteed miss this. Now, the third ability is probably one of the better abilities of it. They actually did make it a lot faster, and it block breaks, and now it ragdolls. Overall, pretty good ability. Now, the best thing of Renshiki that actually is going to put it in 5th place on this list is the second mode. The second mode does the huge damage M1s, good for PvE content, and the C-spec does tons of damage, and the weapon spec is also good. Now, coming to 4th place is going to be Ragnar. Now, the reason why Ragnar is going to be halfway through this list is because Ragnar, after the counter is fixed, really won't be that good, but it's definitely not bad either. I have noticed that the block break is generally kind of hard to use sometimes, just because, you know, people generally move a lot in PvP. That's kind of like the number one thing people do. They like to move it. But when it comes to actually, you know, the first move of it, if they are moving around, it can be quite difficult to hit. But, you know, since it is instantaneous and it is uncancelable, it can be a good ability to assist you in fights. Now, the second move does do a lot of damage, but in general, you actually will be better off using a different ability that has some utility to this, because even though this ability has a stun, it does occasionally have gaps in it, especially if there's lag, and it actually does double stun quite a bit. So you do have to be very wary when using the second ability, but it does do a lot of damage, so there's that. And then obviously the counter is fine. Once you put it on the global cooldown, people will go back to using the other counters, just because it's like a pseudo ragdoll stun that isn't a ragdoll stun, so they can block the counter if that makes sense. Also, the mode is probably the single worst thing of Ragnar. The C-Spec just makes you fast as you dash past someone. You can click to do some more damage with it. The weapon spec is kind of good. It's basically just Bruise Stomp as a weapon spec. So obviously that is good, and it does have actually buffed M1s. Now the third on this list is going to be Rune Kachu. Now I actually just want to strike off the moves. I'll tell you everything about the bad about the moves. This is just for the mode. First move, it is kind of just hard to hit on people in general. It doesn't do enough damage to warrant using unless it's against bosses. Second move has a gap in it. Obviously that's bad. It's a point and click ability. And then the third move, the counter, it is super glitchy. Half the time it literally will not work on someone for no reason whatsoever. All right, so now we're on to the good thing, the mode. The mode is the thing that is actually going to rank Rune Kachu in third on this list. The mode is by far one of the single best modes in the entire game, and I'm not joking when I say that. The C-Spec is, you know, it's a delayed ability. It does do lots of damage. You can hit it, so if you want to do a stun into this ability, into the other abilities, the weapon spec is basically an instantaneous ability. You go nee. You basically do punches towards someone. It does a bit of damage, and then the throwable is a tornado ability that can actually allow you to charge your chi and just annoys them in general. The mode is amazing, and it actually does have good stats as well. Now the second on this list is going to be the Diva Ren rework. Now I don't think people realize just how busted this bloodline actually is, because people go like, oh, you know, Diva Ren, it's not that good, you know, it's whatever. This bloodline is busted, man. The first move is an auto-tracking click ability, so if you point and click onto someone, it will auto-track to them and stun them. Now, if they're not blocking, this can actually catch people off guard as well, just because it does travel quite fast. So if you point and click against someone from a long distance away and they get hit by this, they're instantly getting comboed. It's also not, you know, damage that you can scoff at. It does like over 40,000 damage. That's quite a bit of damage for a stun ability, and it's not only stun global cooldown either, so it's a free combo extender. Now, the second move is actually move stackable. It's a point and click pull ability. You guys know how good those are in the game, but the fact that makes it so overpowered is that you can move stack at the very end of it. Obviously that's a very broken thing in the game. Move stacking is generally really good. And then the single best ability of Diva Ren, the mode isn't that good, but the single best ability of Diva Ren is going to be the third move. Now you guys may be thinking, what makes the third move so good? It's an instantaneous possible block breaking ability that it actually, the meteors that come down hit stun someone, so it is a pseudo stun ability, which means it does have a stun to it. So it's an instantaneous high damage ability that can block break, start combos, and also hit stun someone, so you could actually extend combos with it. That is broken, and the AoE of it is also nothing to scoff at either. It's actually a decent sized AoE. This ability is the single best ability of Diva Ren, and it has been. Now the mode of Diva Ren obviously isn't that good. I actually will, you know, go out and say this. The mode of Diva Ren is quite trash. The C-Spec is a counter which you could just find with all other Rengoku abilities, or even a subjutsu. You can use a subjutsu instead. It's you know, not mode block. And then obviously the mode weapon spec is going to be an M1 combo extender. Generally that's not really that good in this game, considering there's just so many of them. But that being in a mode that also, you know, doesn't give you iframes is generally really not that good, especially because the AoE is absolutely tiny. By the way, guys, what is your favorite of the actual new bloodlines in the game? For the comments below, we'll be checking them out. Now coming in first place, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, is going to be Strange. Strange has the single best mode in the entire game out of any bloodline. C-Spec is a time stop ability that heals you back and also stuns someone. It also has the ability to revive you if you actually die during it, and actually does give you a decent amount of stats, with the M1s doing 10,000 damage in M1. That doesn't even get me started on the weapon spec, which is actually an M1 combo extender combined with a 4-second iframe. That also locks people to being inside of it because it makes a bubble around you that people can't escape. So yeah, Strange mode is obviously the most busted thing of Strange. Now the people are kind of going, oh, Strange has a really good mode, does that make it busted? But that is not actually the only thing that makes Strange busted. It also has a very long place lock stun that actually is a point and click ability with very few hand signs, which is the first one. The second move is a, you know, it's really easy to integrate into combos, steals stamina from people, and does apply knockback so you can combo with it. And the third move is a block breaking beam that does like 60 to 80,000 damage. So yeah, Strange mode is not the only thing broken about it, and Strange in general is a very, very, very good and broken bloodline. Anyways, guys, that's the video. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, post it, guys. Bye bye.